Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Byington, and in this video, I'm going to explain to you how to do your visual response assignments. Now, I see from my class list across most of my classes that I've had a lot of you before. Please still pay attention to this because it is now different this semester, all right? Okay, so I'm going to use just one of my classes as an example. Um, it is the same across all of my classes. So when you're looking at this on the screen, just remember that just because it's not necessarily Lit 1, European literature, women authors, whatever, it's it's still the same exact process. It's just sometimes when I show you an example, it might have a list of readings in that example that you are not doing in your class. That's the only difference. All right. So I'm going to use my women authors class as an example. Um, excuse me. So we are going to be submitting these into discussion boards. I genuinely kind of despise discussion boards. And if you've had me as a student before, you know that I used to never assign them. But I think kind of a workaround of that, so there is a sense of community among students who want that. So you feel like you were actually in a class, is that we're going to take this visual response assignment I've always done, and we're going to post those in the discussion board. So I have a what, how, and when and where of this whole assignment. So this is the forum instructions. All of that is right there. And then so far, as at the time I'm recording this, I just have topic 1 and 2 up in this particular class. And you will go to topic 1 when that one is due, topic 2 when that one is due. I'll show you, well, you know when those are due in just a moment. So the what. I if you've had me before, and if you haven't now, you're about to know. I am really big on research in the field of word and image studies, and I like to integrate that into my teaching. I think you get more out of a class, and you're not stuck doing like these tedious and traditional English course assignments, like writing a little short essay every week or something like that, where it doesn't seem to have as much value to the student. So what we are doing is you are going to pick a scene, a character, a theme, whatever, from a set of readings. It tells you down here in the topic, like weeks 1 and 2. So you pick a reading from those weeks, whatever it is you want to choose. And like I said, pick a character, a scene, whatever. And you're going to draw it. No, this isn't an art class. You're not going to be graded on how good or bad that looked. The point is that you are synthesizing your analytical thoughts on that piece of literature in a more organic kind of way than all this like formal education kind of educational trope kind of jargon. Because that's all kind of like performative. You're trying, I think students end up kind of writing what they think the professor wants to see instead of like actually thinking about their connection to the reading. And that's why I make you only pick, you only have to pick one reading. Maybe you didn't like one or some of the other readings. One of them you really connected with, though. So, we're picking one reading. You could pick two and do a compare contrast. That's fair game, but I usually just explain this as picking a reading, as whatever you want to do, though. So think of this as a low stakes assignment. We would call this like relaxed seriousness. Each one is not worth a huge amount of points, but all of them do add up to one much larger sum. So you want to make sure you're staying on top of them and doing them when they are due. So you had to have a little fun with this by seeing what other people came up with, interacting with each other in the discussion board and all that. Okay, how you will do it. So each time one is due, rather, you will sketch a drawing of something from the readings that stood out to you. So when I say seeing a character, hopefully you're going to pick something you thought was memorable. Like it's the thing about that particular reading that stands out to you. And people do other things too. Sometimes they make a sort of tableau thing of like they draw a bunch of symbols that represent that character. But the possibilities are endless. This is a very creative assignment. So, I mean, that creativity just it's only limited by what you don't think of, what you don't end up drawing. Um, in each one of these, this is where we're going to have to get a little technical. You're going to write a thesis statement for each one of those drawings. That kind of represents the whole thing you have drawn. In another video, I'll explain the difference about inductive and deductive, and that's why this says an inductive thesis statement. I don't require these to be terribly long, 50 to 100 words. You might think of it in this way if you aren't sure what to write. You don't have to do this, but this is just my way of explaining it. You can think about pretty much anything in the arts, whether it's dance, painting, poem. Um, they always have these three things about them. They have a landscape because we need a place for all that action to take place. They have figures. Even in abstract art, there's some kind of motion. It might not look like a human body or an animal or a car or whatever, but there's some trace of it that speaks to you and says, there's this figure creating this action in that setting, in that landscape. And then the voice. Now, the voice is like, it's the message, what that whole thing is about. Well, once you have the inductive thesis statement, you already have the voice. Now, you don't have to elaborate on all of these every time you submit a visual response. This is just there as a tool to maybe help you break it down. Please don't feel embarrassed or shy about submitting these. As you'll see when I get to the samples, a lot of people just do stick figures, and that's fine. There's still this sort of mindfulness being practiced about it where you are thinking about that thing that you wrote. So, yeah, like you'll see a handful will be like really good, and then everybody else just kind of drew blobs and stick figures and stuff. Okay, the when and where. So where is down here. It's you click on your discussion topic, and just like any other class where you have submitted a discussion board post, you're doing the exact same thing. I don't require you to comment on somebody else's, because I think that really annoys people. I will say though, I keep an eye on like who is engaging with the class, who is engaging with other posts. So if a bunch of stuff comes up where you haven't submitted things for a while, other assignments or and such, or you forgot to take an exam, yeah, if I see, oh, well, this person has worked hard in the discussion board commenting on other things and stuff, so I'm going to give them a second chance. So that part matters in that way. Okay, so that's the where. Now, well, the when, I'm going to go to that in just a second and show you how you find the due dates for those. You'll see it in your discussion topics, but I have a master course calendar for all this stuff for you, okay? I want to say something about the disclaimer real quick. Have a lot of students. I might not be able to respond to every single post with like this elaborate detail, and every comment that somebody left. You can always email me and ask me for some more feedback, especially if you think it's going to be something you want to turn into a larger project, even if that happens to be in another class. I mean, like that's part of my job is to help you build that knowledge. But I am reading all of them. So don't feel like you're being left out. Another thing, if you've had any English class ever, I think even as early as middle school, that's often when they assign a book like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. A lot of material assigned in literature courses, it's dark and sad. That's because it's writing about the human experience, and we don't all get to have like this like cheery, sugary, happy rainbows and twinkly stars kind of day every minute, every second of our lives. So I totally understand if I'm not going to be mad or offended or report you if you depicted a scene that happened to have violence in it. Like, I understand because that was a part of the story. That's fair game. Here's where the line is drawn, and I have to report you. If you illustrate yourself, like some people, sometimes I've had students do like a self portrait of themselves reading the thing. I don't know if that sounds weird to you, but I actually get that a lot. That's fine. But don't depict yourself harming other people or harming yourself. If you do, I am legally required to report you to student services. If if you are having thoughts and feelings of that nature, you are welcome to reach out to me and I can guide you in the right direction to counseling services that they provide for students. All right. But we can't do that in this assignment. Okay. So I said I'm going to show you when you can find that in content, and it is right here in the master course schedule in the course calendar. So this is the part where I said like everything's going to look a little different. That when I went over those instructions back then, the what, how, when, and where, that looks the same in all of my classes. So my reading list, assigned reading list looks kind of the same in every class. If you've had me before, you're seeing that right now. My visual responses are always listed in blue, exams are in red to give you a sense of urgency. Um, but this is where you see that visual responses are due. So in this particular class that I'm using as an example, this one is due on the 3rd. So you'd want to submit that by 11:59 that night, back over there in that respective discussion topic for discussion topic number 1. All right. So that's where you get your due dates. And then in content, I also have a section for visual response information. Now, I have those guidelines that I just talked about, the what, how, when, where, all that. I've copied that and put that right here too. If for some reason it's easier for you to get to it this way, maybe because you're working on a tablet that particular night or whatever. The same instructions are right there. So you have them in 2 places. But also I have these samples here. This first one is really like bright and colorful. And then here we have their thesis statement and a very short description about why they chose this particular scene and what their illustration, them illustrating that, represents. Okay, over here in sample 2, we have stick figures going on. We have Frankenstein in the graveyard. And this one is focusing on human relationships. So Frankenstein's monster and his troubled relationships with the human world. Okay, in visual response number 3, I tried to give you more than one of these so you can see like people do all kinds of different things and take all kinds of different approaches. And this one, I covered the Trojan women in a few of my classes actually. And that play is a tragedy. However, this person says it as the Trojan women are singing about their memories of the city of Troy, even though it's tragic, that reveals their resilience in this moment of tragedy. So people have focused on any number of different angles in this assignment. So that's it on how to do your visual response discussion topics. You're free to email me, of course, if you have any questions about anything I covered here, or if there's something you think I didn't cover enough. Thanks for watching.